Welcome to Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, just to hear it out loud. Join Toby Malone and TJ Young, along with some special friends, as we puzzle our way through what we once thought was an unreadable book to produce a surprisingly listenable podcast. It is Monday, September 9th, 2024. It has been 115 days since we have started reading, with 308 pages complete of 628, meaning we have 320 pages left to go, and are 49.04% of the way through Finnegans Wake. Welcome to episode 22 of Wake, the podcast in which first halves morph their way inexorably into second halves, all fulfilling a long-held bucket list item, reading James Joyce's Finnegans Wake out loud just once. I am your host, Toby Malone, sadly not joined this week by the man who makes Septembers more stylish than should be legal, TJ Young. TJ is off sick tonight. He might drop in during the recording, but we're hoping he gets well soon. But the good news is that we are joined instead by one of my favourite people. This has been a real treat, a reunion tonight. I was really hoping that TJ would be here for this as well, but he'll be listening in from home. So I'm very glad to say, in a very special moment for me, I would like to welcome the incomparable K'hari Constantine to the podcast. I am so glad you're here, K'hari. Welcome to Wake.
Hey, thank you, Toby. Thank you for the warm welcome. Thank you to TJ. I'm sad he is missed tonight, but yes, I hope he gets well soon, and our meet is inevitable, like I said. But yes, I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah. So K'hari, we go back a while now. So we met. You were a senior at college, right?
Yeah, back at SUNY Oswego,
and I was a brand new professor at Oswego. Didn't know anyone, didn't know anything, completely overwhelmed. I had 5 classes I had to create and prep all on the fly. I was living away from my family who were up in Canada, and I was down in upstate New York. And you were one of the friendly faces I met on my first week there.
Oh man, I was gonna say you were the shining light on top of all the stuff that you had to carry. You were just the harbinger of just greatness.
Well,
so,
I think I was enthusiastic. I was eager to please, and that was my first tenure track position. So I was really trying to make a difference teaching dramaturgy, and I think you took dramaturgy with me.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's one of those courses where, as an acting and directing course, we weren't really like pushed into that direction immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So we took that towards the end, which is why I actually got you during the senior part of my education. But yeah, that was such an amazing course that opened my love for just wanting to dig in to the script a lot more intensely, and even discover like what is dramaturgy. That was one of our major questions, like what is that?
What is dramaturgy indeed? Yeah, absolutely. I'm still not sure I've nailed down the answer to that, but I think that's part of the reason why dramaturgy is what it is. And we had really great cohort that year, a lot of really amazing students who were really working hard and making great art.
Yeah, absolutely. And just being able to be vulnerable and share their thoughts and as a student, seeing others being so genuine and vulnerable in their thoughts with each other was such a warm place to be.
Yeah, and I really clearly remember that day when we were doing production of Clybourne Park at Oswego, and there's only one role in that play for a black man, and you were convinced you were getting that role, and then you didn't get that role. Do you remember that day?
Yeah, I remember.
You were sitting in the lounge, and I walked by, and you were so down.
Yeah, and it was just, I mean, like I expressed to you, it was just like, absolutely, this is gonna happen. This is me. This is my comeback year. I'm leaving all this, but then it didn't happen, and it again, thankfully, I think steered me into a different direction where I got to learn and understand a different side of the theater that I wouldn't otherwise do.
Yeah. I remember that being a really pivotal moment for me as well as professor, being able to sort of reach out and say, hey, I see you, and all right, they don't want you over there. Let's come over here and let's do some dramaturgy. And That was really a real gift for me to have you on the team to do that. And since then, you've carved out a professional career as a performer.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I was able to keep going and be a part of an off Broadway theater company for Ness for a little bit of the time. We produced a lot of shows there, and then you know being able to do film as well outside of that. And nowadays I'm more into the voice acting biz, but it's always fun to reminisce and just think about how much dramaturgy and just your impact alone as a mentor has stayed with me all these years.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, it really is touching. It's really nice to know. I mean, my academic career stopped maybe 3 years ago. I decided to move away from academia and go into librarianship. But it's the students that's what I take away from it is all the memories of all the people who I was able to work with, and lives you're able to change and touch. That's so good. And I'm hoping we're going to have 2 or 3 students from my former career on Wake over the next few weeks. Just because, as like I said to you before we started recording, I'm being very selfish in getting my favorite people to come and record with me, and to do something like Finnegans Wake. Well, why not?
Yes, absolutely. And like I said before, like your enthusiasm attached to this is like a big driver. I know you keep on coming on these episodes and saying, "How have we amassed all these people watching this podcast? How have we done it?" But you're putting your energy into it, and if anything, I'm having a great time while you're having a great time figuring out what the hell is going
Yeah,
on.
absolutely. So, do you have a relationship with Joyce? Have you read any of his other books?
Not at all. No, I
Good.
actually
That's
have. I
fine.
think the closest right is Moby Dick. I think
Yeah.
that's about it. That's the
Yeah, I
closest
mean,
I've
Moby
ever had.
Dick
Yeah.
is. I mean, they're very different kinds of books, but certainly both epics and doorstops. And
Hmm.
Melville was writing a little before. I mean, he was doing different things, but yeah, another giant thing to get through. But you said you had a chance to listen to some of the podcast.
Yeah, yeah. I did have a chance to listen through some of it and dipped in and out of the recaps, and I was just like, I think I've, I think I've opened up too many questions to sort of like try and sift through it. But I think that's a part of the sort of magic in this is just to sort of let it happen and take in what sort of sounds and words put together and what sort of narrative you can create from that as a reader yourself.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's definitely like plunging into chaos and just having fun and then seeing what you can derive from that.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's really what we're trying to do, is just to see what we see, and we're very aware that there's meaning that we're missing. Uh, but that's not really the purpose. I think one of the things we've been getting is feedback from listeners who are able to listen to us making sort of sounds and trying to get this thing out, and they're gaining meaning from following along in their books. And so that's really gratifying to know. But it's also a really great exercise. I wish I'd kind of thought of this when I was a teacher, because it is the kind of thing that getting students in to stop worrying about the meaning of the words and just sort of what is coming to you, particularly if you're doing, this is why this is a cold reading. We're not rehearsing this. We haven't gone ahead and tried out all the hard words. We go in cold because that is an exercise. And as a professional, as an actor, you want to be able to take any text that you have in front of you and interpret it immediately without having to rehearse it for a day. And so that's a key.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think doing this probably every day is key, probably great practice in,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
trying
And
to
if you
bring
if
it.
you're moving into voice work, maybe we'll get a soundbite or two that can go onto your reel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
We
let's
just get a section that'll go right in the middle there, in between the Burger King commercials. Yeah, I mean, meaning is an interesting thing. I think we spend so much time, like we talked already about dramaturgy and about how so much of dramaturgy is about meaning. It's about what is dramaturgy. We're searching for the meaning of dramaturgy, or we take a play like Clybourne Park and we're saying, what do all these references mean? As dramaturgs, we need to give the meaning to the actor so the actor understands, and the actor can then pass that on to the audience. And so meaning is so pivotal in so much of what we do in the theatre, because if you don't understand, then the audience won't understand it. And so it's been a real shift in perspective to take something where we go, no, don't worry about the meaning. And TJ talks often about how the meaning is what trips him up, because he'll grab onto something and he'll start trying to interpret it as he's reading, and he'll get lost or trip over or whatever. And I've learned to just push on through. So yeah, so that process is interesting.
Yeah, has there been anything where you're like, for sure, or that's exactly what that means though?
Sometimes there was a reference in the last episode where halfway through the sentence, and sometimes this is, and you'll find this is as you're reading, the word that you see on the page, you'll interpret it one way, and then you read the word, and then as it comes out of your mouth, you'll hear yourself saying it, and you'll go, oh, that means something different because it's spelt differently on the page, but the way it sounds is it's a different kind of meaning. And so when you take the word and unpack it, and when I say the last episode, it's a couple of episodes ago for the listeners. Let me see if you can get this reference, because I think you'll get it as a theatre person.
Okay.
So this is in as this is on page 250 for anyone following along, but this is the reference. For a burning wood is come to dance inane, glamours hath moided lieb, and herefore culders must leap no more, lack breath must leap no more.
Nevermore? Never.
It very close, yeah. It's a reference to Macbeth, and I've already sort of laboured it a little bit in the previous episode. But the idea that I was halfway through, for a burning wood is come to Dunsinane, and I was like, oh, that's
Dunsinane.
for Burnham Wood has come to Dunsinane, but I didn't. But seeing it on the page, I didn't get it, and so that happens often enough. And I don't know if you heard this, if you saw this girl on TikTok recently. So book talk is a fairly important thing. It's out there in the world. I don't know if you saw the book talk girl. Did you see her this week?
No, I didn't.
Okay, good. Well, this is for you. This is a real treat.
Okay.
I will link to her in the show notes, but I'm going to play you an excerpt of this girl. She's a very pretty girl. She's very heavily styled. She's got fancy designer clothes and done all her makeup on, and her readers have suggested that she read a specific book. And this is how she's responded after getting 34 pages into the book.
Okay.
Can we talk about something real quick, though? Why the is this book? First of all, the writing is so tiny. Second of all, why are the pages so filled with so many words? Like, what the I like pages that aren't filled with this many words. Like, literally, every page is like, look at this! Are you kidding me? This book is so difficult for my brain to follow. Like, I'm only 2 chapters in, okay, I understand, but all these words, like, I have no idea what's going on. Like, listen to this. Per Haskell, Big Bolliger, Gilles, Elzinger, Ketterdam, Liddy's, Harley's Pointers, Razorgools. Am I drunk? Or is this book drunk? Because what the how are you all following this? I'm scared.
I'm scared.
And obviously the reaction that most people have had has been one of dismissiveness and badgering this poor girl for being, moderately illiterate. But but it's the thing I found so fascinating about that is all of those words that she read out, all of them could be from Finnegans Wake. And just thinking about her reaction to this book.
Yeah, I mean, if she thought that was insane, if it wasn't Finnegans, then if she got into this, then we get another video. She'd probably go viral again.
Yeah. Oh, we should tag her and see if she'll read Finnegan for us. I should get her on an episode. See how many paragraphs she gets through. No, I'm not here to punch down at this girl who has many millions of followers on TikTok, and good for her. It's just more this idea of desperation for meaning. People saying, but there must be, it doesn't make sense. I'm 34 pages in. It doesn't make sense to me. As opposed to one of our great friends of our podcast, Neil Wexler, talking about the fact that that's the point. The fact that it doesn't immediately expose itself to you is the point. That is the challenge. It's being inside of that, which I guess is incredibly dramaturgical in its own sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of the joy and the challenge for why we do what we do.
Yeah, I wonder if by the same token, it's sort of like an exercise into being with the uncertain and sitting with that uncomfortableness of not knowing what something means.
Yeah.
Not the end of the world, but it's just like it can be, anxious and like, what are you supposed to do next? So, yeah, and
Yeah.
having to redefine meaning also is another layer.
Hmm.
Like, say something means something in a different context. Now you have to rewrite whatever you knew. But yeah, that's that constant search for meaning is definitely prevalent even today.
Yeah. That's so true. And it's one of those things where you kind of get used to books giving things back to you. You go, I'm going to give you my time. You're going to give me a mental image of what's happening, and then I'm going to tell everyone the story that I learned in this book. And one of our listeners, Anna, she sent me a message on Instagram, frustrated, trying to read along with us, and she's in chapter 2.2, and she's reading multiple areas, different kind. She's looking at different books that give insight into the chapters, and she's reading listening to different versions, and she was thanking me for this because she's listening along. But in the end, she was saying that she's not getting a lot out of, or she's getting a lot out of it. But she said the quote. She sent me a message, and I said, I'm going to quote you on that. Is that okay? Because it's the best thing. She said, I just want to finish it. I'll invest as much time and dedication as I can, but this book is not interested in having any kind of relationship with me. I have to accept that. I thought that was wonderful. The fact that it's the literary version of he's just not that into you.
Right.
I've just been like, just let it go. The book is never going to love you, no matter how much you try to love it. And maybe I mean, I'd like to think that there's rewarding things in there, but yeah,
Hey,
I mean, I feel like I'm setting you up. I feel like we're getting to rolling towards the reading, and I keep saying it's impossible. It's I have no relationship with, but
I think that makes me more eager to just go ahead and try it out and see what happens.
absolutely,
Maybe I will just stumble
yeah.
along right with you.
I'm sure. Oh no, I'm sure. This is why I brought you in, professional actors.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
we're gonna.
well,
Yeah, and you are here on an auspicious day, partly because we are halfway there. Today we will pass the halfway point for Finnegans Wake. We will move our way past page 314, which is halfway. And also today is the 15th anniversary. 15 years ago today, I defended my PhD dissertation. So
all right. Oh my
yeah,
God, you really
15
brought
years
me in on a
on this day.
milestone day.
It was the
Hell yeah.
9th of the 9th, 2009. I defended. And I only really remember that clearly because my son was supposed to be born that day, and he was born like 9 days later, but he was due on the day of my defense. So that was 15 years ago. And then I believe the first class I ever taught as a professional academic was on the 9th of the 9th, 2014. So today is so that's 10 years ago today. So
Oh wow. And
yeah,
now
so it's all wrapping up. So in 5 more years, I'll be able to say 5 years ago was the day that I recorded a podcast with Oscar winner K'hari Constantine. But
Thank you. Oh, that's amazing. Well, I'm happy to be a part of the history.
yeah,
Finally, so.
absolutely. Well, I mean, I knew this would happen because we haven't seen each other in a couple of years, so we're just chatting away. But we should get into the reading. As always, we are reading from the Penguin Modern Classics edition of Finnegans Wake, published in 2000 with a foreword by Seamus Dean. Today, we'll be reading the first part of chapter 2.3 from pages 309 to 332 in this edition. This is a segment entitled Tales at the Inn, a chapter which is obscured by a heavy drink with teller and tale melting into each other. And this first tale is called The Tale of the Norwegian Captain. That is the summary from the Oxford World's Classic edition of 2012, which includes brief summaries of what's happening in each subsection, which we'll address at the end of the reading. And now, without further ado, Finnegans Wake. It may not or may be a no concern of the Guinnesses, but that the fright of his light in tribal balbutience hides a back in the doom of the balk of the deaf, but that the height of his life from a bride's eye stampunct is when a man that means a mountain barring his distance wades a lymph that plays the lazy winning. She likes yet that pride that bogs the party, begs the glory of a wake, while the scheme is like your rumba around me garden, Olatheses. With pearl helps, the prop of a prompt to them was now or never in etheria deserta, as in grander suburbia, with fin-fan faunas, rurik or tospolite, for much or moment in dispute. Why for had they, it is Hiberio-Miletians and Aglo-Normen, donated him, birth of an ocean that was breeded to sweater slaves, as Mr. Boulder forced in their waste, and as for Ibidulin, what of Himana, that their 12 tubular high-fidelity dialer, as modern as tomorrow afternoon and in his appearance up to the minute, hearing that anybody in that ruined duchy of Wallenstown schemed to halve the wrong type of date, equipped with super-shielded umbrella antennas for distance, getting and connected by the magnetic links of a Bellini-Tosti coupling system with a vital tone speaker capable of capturing sky buddies, harbour-craft emittances, key clickings, Vaticum cleaners due to woman-formed mobile or man-made static, and balling the whole ham shack and wobble down in an aluminum sounds pound so as to serve him up a Meligaturney merry-go-round, electric drill alley filtered for all Irish earths and ohms. This harmonic condenser enginium, the mole, they caused to be worked from a magazine battery called the Minim Bim Bim Patent number 1132, Thor Peterson and Sins, Jomsburg, Selverbergen, which was tuned up by twin triodic single valvulus pipelines, like slipping along as if they're lifting deep under upon it, with a hydrocephalus enlargement, a gain control of circumcentric megacycles, ranging from the antediluvium onto the Zoroastrian. They finally caused, or most leastways brung it about somehow, at the pip of the Lynn to penetrate inthro an auricular forficle, known as the Vakingfa sleeper, monofractured by Pyrus Ruam Haig Hug Lug Timpam founder Usta Shreit Bauligo Sheklag, a metis conch culpable of condensing Saul and Santry and the 40 routes of Corthy with the consortiums of the Brythic Simmons Guild, the Rope Makers Reunion, the Variegated Peddlers Barangoy, Bsnide Bertherhood, the Askold Olegsonder Clouds of the O'Keefe Rosses and Rosso Kivas of Zest Woking, the League of Yehuth OSV, so as to lull the bygone does they arborized around, up his corpulent fruent, and down his reactionary buckling, Hummer, Enville, and Storap, the men of iron, Thor's curly mane for you, till the labyrinth of his otological life. House of Call is all their evenbreds, though its cartomants hallucinate like an erection in the night, the mummery of whose deed, allure of Nur, emerges in mirage in a mirror, for it is where by muzzin messed for 1 watt-hour bylaws below, till time jings please, that host of a bottle filled, the bulkily hulk white, the hunter's pink of face, and oral aureoled, is in on about to be unbulging and O'Connell's, the true one, all Seethic, a lucky bock, pledge of the stoop, Willem his Canterbury bell's eyes wink wicketing until the teller, oined of an oistman in skull of scand. Yet is it this ale of man for him our Hubal jointed, just a tug and a fistful as for Coulson, the Patagorian chieftain of Chokin Chuckers, and his moiety joyant under the former dispensation when he pull up the turfy cork by the grates of Gobble out of Loch Neagt. When, precious to be our hoary frother, the pop gave his sullen bullet action, and Bilge sled a movement of cathartic emulsipation down the sloppery slide of a slaunty to tilted lift-ye landsman, Alamin, which in the ambit of its orbit heaved a sink her sailor, alongside of a drink her drainer from the Bass's brothers. Those two, they got theirs.
Whoa. Okay. It was long after once there was a Leland in the luffing oar. It was less after lives Thor a toiler in the tawn at all. Or it was note before he drew out the middle of Kersey by jerking his dressing. Or it was not before, and torch ships he button hailed the Norwegian's capstan. So he sought with the lobster claw of his pro-pencil the clue of the wixter in his ear. Oh, Lord of the barrels, comer forth from a now. I have now mislaid the key of Ephastum. Oh, Anna, bright lady, comer forth from Tethanau. I have not left temptation in the path of the sweeper of the threshold. Oh, but first, strong boweth they would deal death to a drinking. Link of a leader, double in it, slake your thirst thoughts awake with it. Our slaves are Savlav Arun. We rescue thee. Oh, Bass, from the damp earth and honor thee. Oh, Conan Bell, with mouth burial. So was done, neat and trig. Up drought and wet them. Then sagged he to the ship's husband, and in his transatlantic Nord-Shanklin, here can a sketch or a hook alive a suit and sore Torkins. Suit, said the ship's husband, knowing the language here is Talaran, Ash and Whitehead, close chop, successor to. A horror, he said, canting around to that Bedsith friend, the tailor, for Nick's culture, chunk, pulley, munchy, chink, topside, numpa, one sella fella, fakin' capstan, makin' shoot, manning to sail of clothes for his lady, her master, who's to be precise, of a peer of Troutster under the pattern of Cassack. Let me prove, I pray thee, but this once, said's Mengarments, saying the mouth's brand from his fire pool. He spit in his face, begin. He tapped the raw bet's pattern. He blanked his pledge, as dab, and he tog his fringe sleeve, buttock fur whale, alloy for allay, and his tooth for sulf. Lick it and like it. A barter, a parter, and plenty good enough. Neighbor Norre's every bit and grain. And the ship's husband brokers after him to hail the lugger. Stop, thief! Stop! Come back to Moisteren! And the Norwegian's captain sorried some blowfish out of schooling. Alexi, below dearly he had taken heavy sets, but they've broken waters and they've made waters as a surf spark to lots of his voss. And away he yankered on the Norwegian run, so that 7 sailed sorrenders was he breast bare to the Bryn Bath, where bottoms out has fathoms full. Fran, Jose, land till Cabo, Tormendoso, and darts and rising soon. Up the river Tannery and down the Gulf to Sombris. 30 days and 30 nights. Enjoy yourself. Oh, merman, and the tides made, veer and hole, and the times marred, rear and fall, and holy bucky, dine and ride. Hum! Based on the brothers and laugh, and with a quick pity snip that we half bit a second. I will do that, says K'hari, mainstaying the ridge out for her wide lairdship. Newt Sue, they hunch back at the ear picker. But old sporty as Endif Lord and Ride House Rainer, he not feared crimp or cramp or shore sharks, plot some to get some. It was whole neat got dab or of arrow lorets of his cape of good health, and his tripperet Loretta lady, a Mehmet to his monotone, with twinky herd stone hairpins. Only not, if not, a queen of prances telling her, their telling tabled who was, for his seeming a casket through the heavenly, nay, heart of the sweet. Had he house, would he keep her as niece a fiddle? But in the meal tub it was, whoa, yes, Spurt's bargain, what? Rarer of recent and occasional conformity, he, with Muggleton muckers, always all along, most certainly allowed, as Pringlenagers, grace to pentatonist of right of the 3 blend cupstumeries with their accustomed spirits, the Gilgob, the Berkeley Bump, the Wolsey Wander look, having their sealed Gelid in his Shanty Irish, group drinkards, makes, gropes, thinkards, or how reads Rotary, juror of Chestend, respecting the other dogs' churches. So long plebs will be plebs, but plebs by low frequency amplification may later agree to have another. For the people of the shed are sure ads of all quorum. Lorimers and leather sellers, skinners and salters, pewters and paper stainers, parish clerks, Fletcher Bowers, gridlers, mercers, cordwainers, and first and not last, the weavers. Our library is open to ye public. Inholder, upholder. Sets on, say forth. Go to, agitator. They bassabund over the flower of their hose. Go down, Moses, and skip thy beeblebee. I will do that. Cordial by mine hand, said curtsy. Curse, piece cod, and in the flap of a jacket, rectified after his nap of blanket, there, O cousin, as sober as a ship's husband, he was one my father when he told we saw Willupin. I am now well and jurely saxified after the Boomamorse, the widower, according to Ryder, following the Nomenana, he is consistently blown to atoms. So help me, Boig, who keeps the book. Whereafter behest his surveying law the thing, and the Pilsner had the bar. Reckner Jarl, they called him Rognoir. I'll call him, still passing the change of pennies, pennipedgies, pengy piggies, a several sort of coin in livery, pushed their whisper in his hearing, seemed a some ship sheds, soto vox stalement, dagger die, to Halsby anyone doing duty for Duff Point of Dorkland Compers, the same to good in Atzvolut discharge, after which he had exempted more than orphaned for the ballast of his natural life. And through a cast, a few pixies, and here you are no chicking. Tribune's tribute, if you guess mimic mining, meanly in his lewd brogue take your Typhon Copple's token. With this good citric brogue, take your Copple's token, with this good citric from mine run bag of jewels. Numbers, that is summus, that is top tip, that is bottom bay, that is tumes, that is digs, that is heres, in the frame shape of hard metals. For we all would fain make glories. It is mindly well meant. Thus as count the cost of liquid courage, a bullion gauger, stowed stirvers, pennapong and bulk and hold. Fight great, finance, bravio, little Breton, keen his kenning, the queerest of the crew, and that fellow fearing his own misshapes, would be he himself namesakely a foully fallen descendant from the preparator, sued towards Mead Reed and Lynn Duff, rubbing the hodden son of a pupil, leaden by light, lather be dry and be drowned on all the else beside. How the camel, and where the difle, or when the finicking, or why the funicking, or who calls the scaffolding to be the first removed, you give orders, babbling, where their righty mead answer on their cutie. The correspondent, in conflict of evidence, drew a kick at the witness, but missed, and for whom in the diadem's kitty removed the planks they were wanted. Boob.
Bump. Both old your actors shummin around gan summin numinar drum trummin a humpta dumpta wall to boof ul dulrera monster nip. Did a do a dive aped one. Propello pelom barota base 2. Rutches for Rutterman. Ramping his row seed 3. Where the muddies scrim all, bim bim, bim bim, and the maidies scream all, him him, him him. And the furthermore let legend go lore of it, that mortar seemed so crimpty-dwimpty that a dusty dust it ranged arb originally, but luck sleep to the lad at the top of the ladder, so Sartors resorted, why the sinner the badder. Ho, 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 la, 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 la. Hillary, rillery, gibbous, grist to our millery, a push-pull, cuckoo, quiescence, poo-poo, with extravagant interpovolve coupling. The safest louf in the world, paradox mutos caring, but here in a present booth of Balaclay, Bartha Malamo, with their Dutch uncler milne hosts, and serves them dram well right for a booze interior, Homeric van Homeric, that Selver is to screen its auntie, and has ring round as world-wise Eve her sin, pip, pip, will pip, future pip, feature a pip, footloose past cast with spare shins and flash subtittles of noise made irsy from a nephew mind the narrator, but give the devil his so long as those sons of a belich call the tuon, and thounder lout makes the third. Let there be. Do. That's all Murtor Pertor, but what abob's his doctor? Says they who were one time uncirls themselves, when the youthful of his yorn shook the boochel in his bed, twirled alongside in wiping the rice associated with their wetting. The lapple of his size, his rosin Sullivan Velneri, and his sicummed of homnis terrars, she wends to school us in her slaupers. There were no peanuts in her famalgia, so no wumble she tumbled for his famous Roal's Davers. Don't him forget. A butcher arched out of college train tea. Diddled he daddle a drop of the cradler on delight, me bold laddie was stretched. Knitwear? And they addled, or ere the cry of their tongues would be uptide dead, shuffled both them asidle, plus his ducks for his drills, an inlay of a little more lining mocht be licensed all at once, be these same tokens for giving a brass rap, sneither a whole length nor a short shift, so full as all were concerned.
Burner face, shiply after, shoply after, at an angle of lag, let flow, brabble, and brabble, and so hostily heavy-sighed breathing came up with them, and, check me, Jewel, shot the three tailors, butting back to Merle Herring, bump as a beam and buttoned, royal and rider, after the deluge's own deluge, the seasoned samped as skibber breezed in, tripping, dripping, through the sheets in the wind, and the tights of his trunks are tickled to tackle, and his rumpled lackey trusra horsing the puffed skirts of his overhaul. He left his stick up in his hand to show them none ill feeling. What are though for all the apprentices it had a mushroom on it? While he faced them from the front to back, then pounced round, quite taken attack, exclaiming, "How cool's everybody?" Good marams, say ye, fresh waddies and boasteries, all as he put into Beerhaven, Nagescovy first, Caboodle second, jilling to the windwards as he made streaks for the oar sound that snarty weg for Poovlin. So was his hornpipe lug in the lee of their mouths' organs, with his tilt too taut for his tamiola saunter on his wigger on a wagger, with his tag tucked up, with a good eastering and a good westering. And he asked from him now, the hitch did do this, my friend Soakers, that Moan met the kid Ballocks, which he suddenly remembered also where the hatch was he endued strandways in the fond sustention. A penicular frame of mind, for deed he was langstling to talk holt of hems, clown toff, tie hug florton, cablin, cliff top, shelving to bay up and long tomato, where cobbles, posh. Skibberine has come in by Ponatok with Pokey Way and Sadder Raven Evermore, telled Skin Shanks, Laring Frankish for his kicker, who, through the medium of Gallic, through the medium of Gallic, Pulchison tiltold. That was some our proud envisers how their ultra violence led them infrareds, striking down and landing a low against our Aurarian insulation resistance. Two boards that beached asked one, Winnestane and Tixton Henry, pre Patricarly, all they summed. Kishmet, bound to, and for landlord, noting, nodding, accosting to more was cause to mere. Besides proof plenty, overproof, while they either took a heft, or the other swore his Eric, heaved to, sploosh the membranes, here's airs at you, Bruin Baroon, Ruth a whistle, methinks. For Merrims and good Mary Mills, say good mother's gossip, bowing both ways with the bents and skeweries, when they were all in the old walled of Kinkakaraborg, and that they did overlive the hot air of Monte Buncombe upon the coal blasts of Politos, let there needs to be Horyhorn. Hibernating after 7 oak ages, fearsome where they were, had gone dump in the Doomer King, this tide where the Pexities would pickle him down to the button of his seat, and his cess old sauce errantly into the Belugan with the help of Divey and Joram's liqueur, and shot the door after him to make a mere fine ran's cattle of fish. Moria, Mortimer, Malapa, Alapa Overus. How oft had the Balshi tried, and they laying low for his home gang in the eerie bleak mead, with fireball feast and turkeys rummelt and pulpers patched to provide his bum end. The foe things your thinks to be fittin' for the big water. He made the sign of the hammer. God's drought, he said, after a few days, thinking of all those blikins. How Leaf pauses. Here you are back on your Hawkins. From Blassel the Bros to our Provotus protocol, the furt on the tum of the Herdes, slave to trade, vassal of the spices and the dragon the market, and be turbo, lurch a stripe, as were you soused me thought out of the mackerel. Eldelfs, said he, a compavin on Iceland. Here's one hand legs for one old Fokker from the home folk here in U's booth. So tell me, Gundy, sig now, wagon capoon, with the wary posthumous explanation, shoots, ogos, shootsels, or where's the slob? A bite of keen sends he sagged, till Dennis, for this janter, and let the Dublins, roast perus, or a stinger, he sagged, to on dowered bread Kennedys for Patrick San Saki on Savo fro or my old religions out of temper, and when I'm soured to the tipple you can sink me lead, he sagged, and if I get can, sagged he, a puss pull of tom tartum. Thirst, because homing hand give. Alki, Dalki, say at the shop's housebound, for he was as deep as North Star, and could talk sulkers' shoulders into tankers' shoulder, as might have said every man to his beast, and a treat for the trading scow. My cater million fails to you, and crop feed a stall. Afram. And he got and gave the expectant for hambre, welcomer, what's the good word? He made the sign of the feaster. Cloth be laid, and the disc austere for the swanker. Ala balala. He was the carelessless man I ever see, but he sure had the most sand. One fish ball with fixings for a Dan of a fin of a son of a gun of a gum boiler. Expedient, he said he, Son, you're mine, Shackleton's Sultan, upvarts and a ham, or this orger, oh sir, will oxmall us all, said he, like one familiar to the house, while Waldemar was heeling it, and Muldimer was towing it, so exeg he was walking from the bow at his house, at his food, at the mere crank, he was waiting for the toe of his turn, till they plied him behaste on the fare. Say wern, now how did he curse or hoot alike the suit and soldier skins? Minded first breechmaker with considerable way, and on Humpsy Dumpsy, the munchant man, second snip cutter the cutter.
A ninth for a ninth. Take my word from it. And no mistake, they thrice told the tailor, and they knew the wired for too, that because of his so such. Ugly man fit bim him shemp, but throats fill us all, and three's here for repeat of the unium. Place the scours worn on your Groot Big Bailey Bill, he apologized, the O'Colonel power, latterly distented from the O'Connor Dan, through promontory himself, that he was oblivious of the health of hosts that rose before him from Sheiks O'Curo under its semblance of Mardal Mansk, like a dun-darting dolometer, with its molten hairs stuck in plusters upon it. Do you ken yon peak with its coast so green? Still trustfully a cape for her, his grach knew well, in precious memory, and that proud grace to her, in gate a movely water, of smile a coolsome cup, with that rarefied air of a Montmorency, and her quick little breaths and her climbing colour. Take thee live, we'll save thee wive, I'll think up long, the lady. Should Anaris Anthropois call homo virtue, do fear? The gems to the gloom, he be she's there no sma. Obsit Nemon, floodlift her ancient rights regaining, so yesteryid, even remembrance. And greater grown then in the trifle of her days, a mouse, a mere tittle, trots off with a whole panoc macron pitcher. Her young free yoke stilling his wonder circus, jilt the spin of a curl and jolt the broth of a boy. The Alexandrian captive conquest, Ethna pretty plume, hoogly spate, him her first lap, her his first fast pal, for ditcher, for plower, till deltas to port. While this glowwords lump is gloaming off, and hand in hand will grow. Through simpling years, where the low caste have a ten of Millican honey, and datish fruits, and a bannock of barley on Tham the Thatcher's palm. O wonderness be wondernest, and now listeneth to me, Vales of Minor. He would withsay Nepithalos, that is to me mean. I always did me Walsh and preach up ere we set, with his sad slough munch for Beckenham. Yet never shet it in the broach of Arroch, not for legions of donors of Gamuels. I have performed the law in truth for the Lord of the law, Taif Aleph. I have held out my hand for the holder of my heart in Annapolis, my Euthrib city. Be ye then my protectors under Mesopotamia before the guards of the city. Theirs is a gentleman's agreement, woman shent's plodge, to slope through heather till the foot. Join Andersoon and Co. If flowers of speech veil the springs of me rising the hiker, I hill-tap the murk, I missed my blessed way. Nor a knocker on his head, nor a nick number on the monument. With that cold brunt Natstel the wefting stinks from Alpenicia, wooving Nile nulls from Memeland, and wolving the overtones of the voice. But as spectrum omnimergent crested from the irised sea in plight, calvitiousness, loss, glidness, unwill and snorth, it might have been what you call your change of my life, but there's the chance of a light for my living. Hilly hollow, valley low, with the sounds and the scents in the morning. I shall be shoddied, throttle me, find me cow wheel forever, unsquish botched in the erstwhile ale Connor, for bringing briars to Bem Bracken and ringing Rinbus round Demetrius, for, as you wrinkle rightly, bully blue doma, it's a sursute stircus haunting histories round old volcanoes. We gin to gnit, and thus plenary indulgence make culinaries of us all. But time is for Tallerman tasting his tap. Tip-top tap, Mr. Mout. He made one summary, Chalk and Merble in Lone's time, of his the three swallows like he was muzzling Moslems, and torched up as the fairy pageant flew down the hysophagants, a slake for the quick lining, to the tickle of his tube and the twabble of his fable, fibbling once upon a spray, what a queer and queasy spree it was, plumped. Which both did, prompt. Crystal holder? Save Amsterdamter that had reminiscence in the Netherlands. By the drope in his groin, alley slooper, thinks the Apon, plumbing his liners, we were heretofore. And be the coop of his gobos, Reacher the Third, thinks your girth fatter, a popo of his bucksay sailors, but where's Horace's courtin' troopsters? I put him behind the oast house, sagged Puckelson, tuning wound on the teller, appeased to the cue that double diode dealered, and he's wallowing awash swill of the Tara water, and it marrin down his gargantas trums athletic like the marousers of the gulp stroom. The curse of woe laughs on him, shittitier, he segged in the fornicular, and at where or not at where, I'm siggin' no stretcher, for I karst his Moorherson goat in trothers, with him a new buckle nooses behy in the fire behame in the oast house. Hops, sagged he. Smoke and coke choke, loft till the tear trickled drown a thigh, loafers all but a sheep's whose pants, the swish the Lord he hadn't, and the starer his story was told to who felt that, the fiery of Fornax being thirst on him motto phosically, as Omar sometimes notes, as such a situation debauchedly to be watched for, would empty him down to the ground. And hope be dope, sagged he, entered the Enderer, now diply hypnotized, or hope says doper himself. And curse him, sagged he, after in under Tarapulin, and the shines he cuts, Shinar, the Screeder, the Stitchimus Snyder, adapted to the nosatoriums in his buttoning holder, command shist, sagged he, for you folk you, which goes in the ways smoking public, sagged he, bomboosting to be in the lightest civil row faction for a double-breasted navy gaitered, flick off that fide ask big head, sagged he, the big bag of my ham till him torlaloon, sagged he, with his pudney brun broth cost, when he waltz meets the banged. I will put his fleas of wood in the flour, and he sagged behunt on the otious, the not well made one, sagged he, the curse of my arm sore appall, this most unmentionablest of men, mundering erixt, if he didn't scold at him all the shrimps' names in the ditter. A coat hem Sussex stewer, sagged he, his first cudgeon is an invalay of the innitured stabled, which is not feed tonight's a curtle awful fisk, and he is that woe-worsted, waste-ended shootmaker, whatever pooped the noodle in the cloth. For the second try-on, all the meeting of the Akaras had it. How he heist his bungle o'er his shorter, and cut the pinter off his pora, and lay off a Philadelphia in the barning. From his Droom Mad Drame Drudhu back to the Brighton upon the Baltic, from our lanes run tours bag till Threefty Hurgs a wook. Stuff, Taff, stuff, interjoked at his wife's hope's end to the both of them consistently. Come back to my Elaine. Ill luck to it, blasphemed the no-raging scamp-tail. Inflating furies outtrues his camel-skins, the flashlight of his ire whackering from the eye-winker on his mast-stop. And I far he fared from Afric arena, and yea, near he night till blowing beering, bacon be the brazen sun, buttered be the snows, and the sea showed, and the soul squalled, and soaking scupper didn't he drain?
A pause. Infernal Machinery, serial number, Billy Sacker, Dig Care Dig. Having thus passed the buck to Billy back from Jack, Thunder the Keeper, As the baffling yarn sailed in circles, it was now high tide for the reminding pair of snipers to be suitably punished till they had, like the previous Ulkener done, literally no more powers to their elbow. Ignorancers bliss, therefore they're not to say rifle but target. None too wise folly. Poor fish, he's eaten, he's a spun, his milked, he dives. Upholding a lamprthorn or a lawsuit, a wand of welcome to all men in Bonifay. And the Corlos he has saved against the virus he had thus injected. Discoast itself to that Kipsy points of its Dublin bar there, breaking and entering from the outback's dead heart. Glassthole born or born Harky Park Nola by what is made or by Coney Australians in Ireland, a well-known tall hat blown in between houses by a nightcap of that silk, or it might be a black velvet and a Kibler Galler dragging his hunker, were signaling gale warning towards Wazzle Haven to give them their bearings. East Circular Route or Elegant Central Highway. Open, tis luck will have it. Lifeboat alloy. Nomans, woe, hiccups, empty bolly. With winkles, whelks, and coal sense jokes. Let be Buttercup Eve, let by night in the Phoenix. Music, and old lots have fun at Finnegans ball. Till Aaron wakes from slumber deep. How they succeeded by courting daylight and saving darkness, he who loves will see. Business, his bestness, Copeman Helpman, Contreskne. He cupped his years to catch me's to you in what's yours, as minus to hisn't, gale as gale, guile as gall, odor zone, now our menial servant, blanding rum, milk, and toddy with I hand it to ye, saying witches see his bow on the happens, with a pattered but digit here. He scooped the hens, hounds, and horses biddy by bunny, with an arc of his covet hen, saved from the drownings they might encounter, until his Cuban longed to hide and dry. Aside, your sows send the topple, dodgers trink me dregs, zoot! And with the gust of a spring Alice, forsickers and swagglers with him on the hoof from down under piked forth desert roses in the Mulligar scrub. Re-enter Ash Jr. Pee-wee, tup-tip, Nankin Pontaloogs, gives fair day, Shrew, Chevio, off. Take off, Datch, Witchet, lo, curse, coming back bespoken of the lounging of the bulldog, stumping cheats, rush, Irish, dangling his old Conan over his top gallant shoulder, so was, Lao, you, shall, he more like a novicer on the Nuve. Tick off, watch while hot, you scum of a botch, of curse who, as he turned out, alas, Huan Chewing Chang, had been mocking his hullaballoon, a sample of the costume of the country. Table dash all foul soon wrong Welsher, you sucker thick stalker, the other, and comforter yourself. For because he had cuttered up the misfuttered in the most multiplice manner for that poor old Bridges mastered slouch of shook of Cloakskis the wise. How he powly hung hound soy his own fither couldn't nose him. Chorus, with his coat so gray, and his pounds that he pawned from the burning. And Hakin or Hurlin, how did you do at Doll today, my horsey dorsky gentryman? Surge me suit, says he, tensy kursky. And when Terse had tased his curse, stood them the whole course of training, and how the whole blazy rays of scourged from the lambskin back to sliverboard, and from spark to finish. And he tasked him tartly, and he sassed him smartly, tig for tagger, stroop for stripe, as long as there's a lasher on a kite. And they peered him beheld on the pyre. And it was so. Behold, same Catman know nothing, horses too feller, he feller go where? Isn't that effect, gig for gag? Asked their newcomers till Knopskin shop at the ones upon the toppers who, while in admittance to that in penance, as three as they were there, they had been maltreating themselves to their health's contempt. That's fag for fig. Me think is confessed. Me hoes for me hoes. Those who would it not be for that dielectric were upon the point of obsolescence and at the brink of from the pillory of the Nelsons and from the statues of the Kong bullies and from the milestones of the old Gamblimus libitate nos domini. And so sculpt me goose, he says. He says the ham municipated of the first course, recoursing all the cores and coughs and his bow on the bummel and the buganeering, wankered ducking, he says, that his punts may ship a whole shandy mound of the dorsard. The coarse hair, higga, high, say, digga, sayman. There's nice tugs, he looks. How you was, ships a slout, he says. The Bloodax, Bloodex, Baltex, that is cropping into our raw language, navel through the lump small of his home shall, he says. Dong confounder him, voyaging after maidens, Belly Jonah hunting the Polly Jones, and the hers of all Portenoysters befaddle him. He says, till I split in his flags. He says, 1-to-1, Landslewer at the Donner Broach fire. Reefer was a wenchman. One can smell of his vestments how he is coming from a bench of promise. Where is that old mutiny, shall I ask? Free kicks he will have from me. Turncoats in Bar Bartley, if I would a few years ago. Meister Captain gas cooker, a sauce trimmer. As he was soaping me letter like Pope, and I was trailing his foam bombs. Like Hope, he'll fell the fall of me, false, he says, like Yelp, the Gorigator Ball-Yed Push Coulson, he says, and his bellows pockets full of potatoes, and his fox in his stomach disagrees in his ram school caulders, sletchers, skitchers, sickervis drop down dead and deaf, and there is never a tool worms in the Rolf Rife of Alison, or in the whole belonging of Skulkin Bori from Dromondorandary to the mountains of remnants of Mecris. Could milk in a colt in thrushes for an foreign follower with a hole in his tail, and that hell of a came lump back. Fadge just.
Upon this dry call of selenium cell, that horn of lung halloon Rylands in peril, with its doomed crack of the old damn Uncanin power insounded in it, the lord of the saloon, as if for a flash salamagund himself, listed his tumulumps pack, and Hiranat presently returned him, ambilaterally all eye one-eyed from their upple-toned layer to his before-time guests, that bunch of palers on their round, time marching and petroling how, who, if they were abound to loose a laugh, Tony Lampy, you brascal, they were a boon to let it as they leashed they might do when they felt, oh, the wolf's he's on the walk, sees his sham cram bock. Their joke was coming home to them, the steerage way for stabling, gustorially spoking, gen gang, Dane and Dare, like the dud spuck of his first forward to type. Troll did droll, how very unlikely. The filly busted and fully bellied. With the old sit in his shoulders and the new satin atlas under his uxter, earning his breadth to the swelt of his proud and picking up the emberose of the lizard lights, his tail toiled of spume and spawn, and the bulk of him and the hunk of him, and whenever it was he riddled a ruid to riddle a reed from the sphinxerous perk, while Eid was a garden ere loved a side issue. They hailed him cheeringly, their ancient, their mariner, their walrus, their merman, ye seal that loves you lasses, Thalassy or Tullifamac, when come of uniform age. Heave, coves, empty bloody! And ere he could catch a hook or line to suit their saucy skins, their lumpen pack, underbund was over a skeld, as, Sot! Sod the tailors opposite from their gabelots, change all that whole set, shut down and shet up, our set's all on. And they poured him behoiled on the fire. Scald! Rowd ois wad a hooling. Theirs is one lessonless message from good or truces. Will any person bereaved to be passant bring back or rumpart to the hove pointy meister? Clontarf, one love, one fear, Ella's for the great glossary of code, call it Finnegans Lee, Finnegans law. Doug. Welter focused, wind from the north, warmer from toward Muffin Bell, lol. As our relevant Colin Filler predicted in last Mount's chattery sermon, the all-expected depression over Scheim de Nebbia, a bigger muster of varying precipitation and heralded by folk signals, here Cockenhoven nexters, and unwalloped in an unusable suite of clouds, having filtered through the middle half of the same gorgeous kennel on its wage wealthwards and incursion the sotten wretch of low pleasure, missed in some parts, but with local drizzles, the outlook for to marry, stream stress man dig, being brighter, his ability good. What hope ends today? Giant crash in Aden. Bird flights confirm all broaching nuptials. Burial of Lieutenant Grosvenor Hatchet R.I.D. Divine's Previdence. List D. Art thou gainest sense uncompete, limited. Anna Lynchnia Pourable, 1 and 11. United we stand, even many offered, don't forget. I wish auspicable thieves' date for the Stork Derby. It will be thousands a one paddies. As soon to bet on drums of bliss with hapsalat troth, hipsalute prudity, hopesalute honesty, hoopsalute luck, and when from midnight's unwards the four-post the heart quartetto, Kiskivico, Calastus, Torjas, Tansia, Perjanchaj, Pelegia, Alavantaj, La Sunantaj, Christiantanimus, Curjalisus, Christitanimus, whilst this palaver his finish. Come hither, Ahorus, thou mighty man of valour, elder man, adaptive of Capel's snod, the say fong, say foon, allowers brick number till I find you a falter in law. To become your son to be, gentleman's tealer, general and men sea lord, goss and boss, hunguest and harasser, John Gem sums both in salesmanship, says the head marine's talebearer, then say the ship's gob's father in the scat story to the husband's capture, and either you does or he must, and this moment same, said he, so let played pacts be being betfing ye, he said, by my main makeshift, he said, one fisk and one flesk, as flat as Eastman Admonson, you, your iron slides, and so Humpty Dump as Padley McNamara, here he's a hardly canuter, for the two breasts of Banba are her soilers and her toilers, if thou wilt serve iddle as thou hast sailed. Brothers bothers, brothers cothers, ye have swollen blooders oathers. And Gopher said unto Glydion, and said he to the no-wedding captain, the rude honourable Humphrey, who was praying God of Clotildes by the 7 bosses of his trunk-targe, he would save Bucklesome when she wooed belove on him. Come here, said he, my maritime mariloop, you woot and while, said he, into the shipfolds of our quadruple island, bless mad Hugh, Mardik, Lusk and Kong, blast Netos Bray, and no more of your maimed acts after this with your Kautoros and Cryados to every tome thick and heavy, and our unliness of his relevance to your altitude. The ill-followable staying in wait for you with the winning word put into his mouth, or be the hooly table, as Horrocks Tola hath most cares to call it. I'll rehearse your commandments, the first mad heard you entirely. As Puck as that Patius picked the pun and left the lollies off the foiled. A Trinity judge will crux your boom. Pat is the man for thy, aye, and he pured him beheld of the oysters, mingling a sign of the crusk. I poke tides the ocean, said he. Oscar Vortha, says he. Iri Vikener, says he. Intra trifum triforium trifoliarum, said he, unconditionally. For first of Gauls, and hero chief explunderer of the clans of Celtic, said he. The seamsterous masteress to the sea as Cuddy Colesmans, and let this douche for you as a holy a puzzlers, and for all the Puckalines, and to the wakes of you, said he, out of the Helinsky of the Halfeners, and be damned to thee ye, said he, into a Romeo Cornelic relation, said he, from which our this pledge is given, terra truly turnitrine, if not sun towards thousand, like expect Chryson Athens, to which I Oscar your goddess battering sailor, for as you got kfold, whereafter a gooden diggin, and with gooder enscure from Ossian Buck fared again, Ferriores feuded hail Sir Ham, till Edar in that the Lloyd may hersey on your sail. A numen and hour spicken the sand. Nonsense, ye Snorstead! He was halted considerable against all religions overthrow, and so wherefore the thuckers pucker the big bug milklaman did store exploder, would he be wholesale sword dar duped by priest Godfodderin of the sacred haunt souped in diabin balky of the Dunkirk St. Petricksburg? But hear this!
And here, my rear admirable Peter Polson, said he, consistently to the second-named suitor, my lately lamented sponsorship, come send round that wine and lift your horn, said he, to show you're a scholar, for, winter you likes or not, we brought your summer with us, and talking about your life, Yerkeson and his discovery of a miracle, be the rolling 40s, he said, and on my supper crapadam, as Harris himself says, to let you in on some Chrismion doctrine. Here is a nice ninthest pork of a man whisk swimmies in Dublin water from Balscotten eastmost till Thryston's lickstip, and said he, whiles the heart of Lucky swayed slapped in his icebox, for to think of all the sorts of smugglers he would behave in Judy Frews being forlooper to her. Praddy's peal to our good son Brondonius, Filius of a Cara, spouse to Finlog. He has the nicest pert of a niddlewoman in the house of little Chito, Lachato, Lacharmadoir, Tina Bat Toller, Sif for your fob, and a Tessura a store for you, Elusi lamp as when the surge sees sombren that he dots upon of any living plus bell to child and foster. That's the lip year's wonder of Toddy Go. New school, 2 Liddy 2 at Winnie 1. Tramity trimming and funnity fair, and a grit as hard as the Trent of the times, but a tough as saft as the Dean floating, and never a hydrogenny the like of her likeness at look and you leap. Rear Dormancy long Evmans in Verne, about little Annie runners, and all the Lavinias of Easter yours, and pledging for them to herself to the Periglas glash, hangs over her trickle bed. It's a piece of fortune if it never falls from the stuffle, and when the Muller is over, till next time, and all the prim Rossies are out disparating, and the tubas tout for the glory of their god, making every dinny dingle after her down the Dargle Dale, and wait a while, Blusterbus, you're merchant at 240, and don't start furling your Latins till you learn to lie your Londage. When it's summer cold and he can hear the Pinatoire beyond the yonders in Cumbria, sleep talking to the wish muttons, titting out through her dromer window for the fly end of a touchman over the wishtas of English Strand. When Kilbarrack bell pings, Sacolance, that concessus with Sinbad's may pong, where Ardolimonde says the phantom shape of Fortunatus, right, sink winksome Miss Berkeley made low to her wrecker, and he took her to be a rover. Oh, and playing house of ivory dower, of goud and gift, you soil me, peep at my prize, which is blue lagoon for her in a bleak yed. Susan, if she can't work for miracles and give Norgy Borgy good Irish timers, while her fresh Rossi turf is kindly kindling up the lover with the flu, with the Rory Bordy Yellis would set an airy wedding on fire, let alone an old humpumpulus with with the with the boom mar porter on his brain, Aiden Bay Sky and Die, ass Bookie Diddy, 29 to her dozen, and cuckoo him Diddy Dulcie Dovey, his old caucus hogging and munning for his strict privateer, which there's no pure rub like an old pool rubber when your puller beard turns out brewing old Lewin and beat his barge into a battering pram with her rattling away for cubbling, and me and be me fairy fay, said he, the Merrick Mixter to curse, son of Joash, her coex founder, wiry eyes and winky hair, thinking a bit your Andrews Meltons and his love sang of the short and shifty. I will turn my thinks to things of love, and I will speak out three's one, said he, my truest patron's good founder, poles of port and zones asunder, tie up in hates and repeat a luxure. You can better your two blue Protestant arson Tyler Batch after round is about and Donux and the volume smoke, though the clunk in his stumble strikes worn and where he laid out on the counter there like a Slavitz amongst his skippies. When it comes to the ride, Honorable, said he, that's to make plain Nanny Nee Shearus a full Dinamarquesa, and all needed for the lay, from the Hersey on the Monte, with the room and the herbage down to the fork piece and buckle catch, Elding, my Elding, and Liff, my Liff. In the privacy of Prima Nocturne, hap, said he, and at that meet hour of night, and hop, said he, and the first Dianus ever so thrived, whilst the breath of Huppy Hallospund swamped in his searches for to renumber all the Malameters long roll of and call of sweetheart Emmas that every had a port and in from Coxenhagen to the brothels of the Nile, on the Nile, while the tail light is yet slipping under their pillow. Ill omens on Kitty Cole, if she's spilling ladies' measure, and before sing martins in the fields. Ring sing, bings Harry the Concord Echo, and the Referend Fox Gutman gives us I'll Bell the Weld, or the Steeplepoise Ravenger, and all the Fingal Valley knows, for it's never dawn in the dark, but the deed comes to light. The rapist bride is Apis breed, the lassie, and to blow the hoop within us springing. 'Tis no timber tar she'll have then in her arms braced to doll to the dally dandle, her fiery quan, upon the night of the things of the night of the making to stand up the double tet of the overseer of the seas who cometh from the mighty deep, and the night of making Horus to triumph over his enemy. Be the help of me, cope as so plush the riches of the Rothschilds with Elizabetha blessing the bedpan at the well be done of Yinko Jinko Randy. Come, Basta Bosco and Hippie Chip Eggs. She will make a sumu pair and singlet, jugged horse smalls and tailorless, a cuppin's cribful, leaf, bud, and berry, the Divelin's own little mimikin puss. Hip, hip, Horatio! For my old comrade Salty Mar here, Brigantine, General, Sir A.I. Magnus, the flapper, noncer, master of the good life bark. Oh, you'll live green of onslaught, and the homespun of her hearth. Fuss his father was the Northeast, and Moss his mother was a glupot, and Gravy Duck or Groover Anchor and Huldred Punk Sunk Man Hood with a chen for his delight time and a bonsai napping through his doze. He is the bestest, buffest, blond blubber of an old what you going what overspat a skettle in a skib.
Corcoy, cook-aged, and Dub did glow that night. In Fingal of Victories, Can Mather and Kathleen sang together, and the three shouters of glory, yelling half-viewed their harps. Surly Tuhowl smiled upon dear Dartula, and Roscrana's Bolga Boyog begirlified the daughter of Cormac. The soul of every else body rolled into its old soul self. A double month's license leath on mirth, while honeymoon and her flame went huny suckling. Holy Rissia, what boom of bells, what battle of brags on Sandgate, where met the bobby mobbed his bibby mabbing through the rice. Even Tombs left Doss and Dunnage down in Demidoff's tomb, and drew on the dour-nailed clogs that Morty Manning left him, and legged in by Ghost Town Gate, like Pompeii up to date, with a sprig of white boy's heather on his late Luke Elcock's heirloom. And some say they seen old Dummy Deef with a leaf of bronze on his cloak so grey, trooping his colour apace to the rear, and as owlfully posh with his half-crown jewel as if he was the Grand Duke Meckel or Pastor de Grace on the Route de l'Epée. It was Jubilee Jew that Allsouts Jure, Freestouters and public cranks half-sun glaves. You could hear them swearing threeties on the Himalaya mountains, man, and giving it out to the old fat hatch and mouthing after the heely-mealy with an emphasis to bring down the reign of Tarar. Never to let her, ever to mind. The grandest be the Haley seen or heard on Earth's conspectrum since 'scaped the goat that gaffer ate the Soonder's Bible. Hadn't we heaven's lamps to guide us? Yet every lane had its lively spark, and every spark had its several spurtles, and every Spitfire spurtle had some trick of her trade, a tease for Ned, nooks nestle for Fred, and a peep at me mow for Pierre Paul. So that Father Matt Hughes looked totally troubled, but Dan o' the Dane grimmed. Dune. 'Twere Yeg will elsecare doty land meet they deucent himmen to cannons roar and rifles peal vil shanty soloways sang. For there were no more tyrannies, for the Laxambracks were past the cupper to our laders, and it was dim upon the floods only, and there was day on all the ground. Thus street spins legends while wharves woves tales, but some family feud felt a nick in their name. Old vicars sate down on their heirs and straightened the points of their lace. Red Rowleys popped out of their lairs and asked what was wrong with the race. Macnamara used dripping in layers to shave all the furs off his face. The Berkeleys and Coil Finns paid full fanes for their shins when their Cap and Miss Cooley were roped. Roller-raped. With their bandbacks hoist from holder zig for zag through pool and polder, cheap, and laughing Jack, all Urga's scorning, see the bolt your picture's motion and Kitsy Clune Soismine eloping for that home in film's Hotel Fjord, Nova Norning, where they pulled down their cuddle and they made fray, and if thee don't look homey well, that Duke and I may. He goeth at birth, and she caught to manage, and Wols Gors Mundum Gwanna Getst Wetst. Knock, knock. Wha's there? Which where? The twins. Knock, knock. Who's without? Without what? An apple. The kildermast, one then, and unhindered, hare foot, birdie hands, herring-a-bone, bee's knees, and they barney danked Catherine round to know the who and to show the howsome. Why was you hiding, mother of mothers, and where was Hunty, pop of the gun? Pointing up to skyless heaven like the spoon out of Sergeant Major's tay. Which was the worst of them famix couple arts? He's heard of hoarding, and her faiths is altered. Becoming ungoing, their seeming sames, for though that limestone deaf do his part, there's wintry trop whipples the damp off the morning. But tellus it, ullus if, wellus it end, and the lunger it takes, the sooner they'll tumble to. He knows he's just thrilling, and she's sure she'd scream. The three-legged man in the tulip-pied dewy dress. Lud hill my they, we're brimming to hear. The durst he did, and the first she ever. Pegadine Bush, this isn't the polka. Catch as you can when Highland fling. And you, Tommy Maloney, I'll tittle you bairns if you stick that pig pin up into me. So in the names of the balder end of the soul and of Holycrost, us go wear it, trisexton, and by way of letting the ant out of her gross copper and leading mokes homes by their gribes, hoops about a plebiscite of plebiscides, alamam melamom, poison curls on this mountain of delude, and in the high places of delude of Israel, which is Haraharim, on the Diblum's old mountain over against Vikings from your Tarns, Thwaites, and Thorpes, wives, toffs and fosts, fells, haws and shores, luns, garths and dales, menturing the magnanimous as so willed is the little yest, the mirio heartsid with toroidal coil, ira area round wantana jockey, fin above wave after ducky down divvy, trader arm as slung beauty belt, the foremote velican and nana kali kivna, Summerclad and Kinderenna, Valtivar and Viv, how Big Bill Bryan Boromutter first took his gauge at Lil Lolly Lavender Wader since when capriole legs covered limbs of a crane, and was it the twillid of the month or the year or the faint of her smell made the seaman assault of her in a major scene all, whim, 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 to the latification of disgeneration by newer humorization of our Christianization. As the last lyre in the earth, begaily wailed the first lady of the forest. Though toots pardoozled swave, sove, the humour, for the joy of the dew on the flower of the fleets, on the fields of the foam of the waves of the sea, of the wild's mane from born home has just come to crown. Snap, snap, snooty. No air, history and goody. Of a little trip-trap and a big tree schooner, for he put off the kettle, and they made three for fi. And if Heck don't love Alpy, then lad, you annoy me. For Hannigan with Hunnigan still haunt to hunt to fin their Pinnigan, where Rakasarana Ragil, Lakanatul, and Mungan, Mac, whack fall their devil on the double and daddy doodled, and unruly creek to jest. Get opposed to parry off Chicars or Frankfurters on the Oder. Fine again, Cuaholson. Peace, O'Wiley.
Such was the act of Goth stepping the tulk of Doolin, drain in plantage, waddle and daub, with you'll peel as I'll pale, and we'll pull the both to ground to gutter, testes touch wood and shenstone, a tontu pop and puma. Calf and condor, under all the auspicious incorporated, the shawl and his chai, and they're rumorin' over, grib, grab, raining, trippity, trappity, so forth shalt thou flow, else thy cavern hair, to whom she a knit liken and pleased thee, till Silump became dump, to bump slump, a liffle bed, al tola, al lashmarsh, agi, camper damper to jetty dwarfed, all the weight of the muns on his little ribbononch. Him that grand old mun to be that hard of hearing, aforesaid, and her the petty tondor with the fix in her changeable eye, which see, Lord, milad, he goes with Blowbeard, Leedy, Plash's stream. But before that, his loud ship was converted to a Lang shop. There was a little Theo game gig incidents that Hoppy Go Jumpy January morn when he colluded with the cat out on the beg amidst the inaugural games of those outmassed Finnegans for whom he's forecaused a bridge of those peers. At Inverlefi, mating Pontine of their engagement, symbolizing graders and things exient. Oh, nearly not all. Here's the first character action. As if ever she cared as a sundam about her harpoons sticking all out of him, wet between Phoenix, his capillaries and Fodderson sheath. Surats, yeah, Gus Podheen. Kenny start ye, Denny Ozel, while the sit was looking asphalt like a Subarelius, and his roar was tucking to him like old boofs. Boofs. Booths. Booths. Interruption. Check or slow back. Diversion.
Oh, I love it.
Whoa, my gosh.
Oh, how about that? That, ladies and gentlemen.
Go ahead.
That was chapter 2-3, part 1 from Finnegans Wake. How are you feeling, K'hari?
All right, full disclaimer. If I don't sound like I make any more sense for the rest of it, it's just words. It's just words in my head. But wow, that was so much fun.
It's so much fun.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I love seeing your actor's instinct kick in.
Yeah, that was so strange. But like, yeah. Just like the rhythm, I guess, with all that and not having complete context, I just like, well, certain accents and just certain the ways he's written it allowed me to just really understand certain points. Because I was like, what is going on here at all times? But it feels like this is the map to all knowledge, honestly.
Yeah.
And it just like the more you understand it, or the elements, I think, to understanding it is how much you already know outside of the things he's talking about.
Yeah.
But a lot of just basic humane interactions, just like arguments, are just like, yeah, I grip onto that more easily than other stuff.
Yeah, it's something really fantastic about the fact that, I mean, this is a chapter that's set in a bar with a bunch of guys drinking heavily and telling lies to each other, telling these tall tales. The one we heard was the tale of the Norwegian Captain. But yet everything that they say is so laden with quadruple meaning, and everything has these different kinds of... So it's this microcosm of all of humanity, all of the universe, within a moment in time with a bunch of drunkards in a bar telling these stories, but they're with so much meaning.
Yeah, you just said it perfectly. Oh my goodness, because like I could, and that's what you connect with. You connect with, oh my God, someone just stole your purse and they're running down that way. I think that was one of the tales that I like read through, and I was like, that's something that can happen in New York City.
Right.
That'll happen. And I was just like, yeah, and just so interesting how the brain picks up on those patterns. And
yeah, I love the
character
that you built. And you sort of became this like sheriff kind of with the drawl, and it really worked with the language.
Yeah, I some of the words there, I mean, obviously that when they're said aloud, you can then realize, oh, it sounds like this other than that. But with some of the drawl, it's sort of like, or just the way words are said, it just makes the meaning more clearer, I guess, with the dialects and whatnot.
Yeah.
But that was really interesting to see how different, not only the characters, but like the class of character, and how they're putting their words and consonants and periods together. You can sort of make out, who is talking from this point on. So that's really interesting to see too, in the midst of all this chaos.
Yeah. How did you feel about some of those crazy words? Like when you see them coming, and you...
well, at first go, I'm like, okay, what does this word even mean?
Yeah.
Like my brain is just trying to decode it. But after a while, you just slip into just like, it's just going to let your tongue taste it and then see what happens after that. But It was interesting to see the different kinds of words. I don't know how to best put this, but from like different eras of time.
Mm.
So it's like, okay, there were, for example, that came up, and I was like, what are we talking about over here? Joyce, what's going on? And so it's like,
Yeah.
from other words that are like obvious, maybe have Latin or Greek in nature, but it's just so interesting to see how different words and that they're different, I guess, timelines all sort of come together in what you say, this bar where
Right.
everyone's talking. So that was really interesting to see the word choice and being
Yeah.
played around.
Yeah, I tend to just jump over the racial slurs that Joyce sometimes throws in there, because I'm like, I'm not going to say those words. Those words are not for me. It's I'll leave, you can let me know whether you want me to bleep the words out when I do the final edit, because I tend to cut them out because I don't know, they're not.
I gotcha.
But they're historical terms, and a lot of the terms that he uses slurs not only for black people but also for Asian people and for Muslim people, bits and pieces. But again, it's very much like trying to read The Merchant of Venice today. You go, this is unacceptable. You go, yeah, but it was written 400 years ago. So it's a similar kind of thing. It's very much giving us a time capsule of what was going on in Joyce's head, and the fact I keep coming back to the fact that Joyce wrote all of this out by hand.
That's insane.
Leaning on a quite often leaning on the lid of an old suitcase, writing in thick crayon so that he could read it because he was nearly blind.
Oh my goodness!
And just that the detail there, and really fun to sort of get into a fun chapter where it's you really get that sense of the rollicking nature of the bar, and that there's things going back and forth, and there's an audience, and there's someone's a tale teller, and particularly in an Irish context where the Guinness is flowing and everyone's drinking their whiskies, and it's very much part of the culture, and so that kind of sense of what is that the society is really oozes through within these stories. You can really tell that there's a crowd urging on the storyteller, and then there's several more. This chapter actually takes nearly more than 70 pages. So we just did the first 23 pages or something. But yeah, we're going to break this chapter up into 4 different episodes because there's so much in this and each of these big tales that are told. And I'll just what we do is I'll tell you what the Oxford World's Classic summarized this section we read. See if any of this came out in your. So this is how they summarize each of the sections as read. I'll follow the page and line numbering conventions that are standard for the text. So this we read first part of chapter 2-3. We read from page 309 to 332, and this is called Tales at the Inn, a chapter obscured by heavy drink with teller and tale melting into each other. And so the section we read was the tale of the Norwegian Captain. So from page 309 to 311.4, we hear HCE's radio, HCE being Humphrey Chimpton Earwick, are our main character. HCE's radio as the book and as HCE himself. HCE, innkeeper, takes a drink. 311.5 to 312.16. Puckelsen, a Norwegian ship's captain, desires a suit and a sweetheart. The ship's agent finds a tailor, a deal is struck, Puckelsen disappears. And then the note here from the editor says that whenever the term sagged indicates that Puckelsen is speaking, said that it's the agent, and sazzed points to the tailor, so that we can get a sense of this conversation between the three of them, sagged, said, and sazzed, which would be really useful if you were doing a stage adaptation, I guess. And there are, in addition, 2 or 3 customers or tailors who seem to have bass voices. 312.17 to 315.8. The teller, HCE as innkeeper, pauses to serve drinks, collects money, then trips up. The customer's audience gossip about his daughter. 315.9 to 319.2. HCE returns after, it seems, a pee break, provides more drink and more of the story. Puckelsen now also returns. He and the agent discuss the deal. 3 tailors respond. Puckelsen records happier times. 319.3 to 320.31. There's a discussion and a query. Where's the captain's trousers? He's thrown them away and curses the tailor and then returns to work. 3:20:32 to 3:23:24. More drinking and some insults. The tailor complains about the misshapen captain, calling him a fascist. 3:23:25 to 3:24:17. The innkeeper returns and shouts. Is silenced for some radio announcements. 3:24:18 to 3:25:12. The weather, some news, and future programming. 3:25:13 to 3:29:12. The agent is a peacemaker between sailor and tailor, baptizes Puckelson, then praising the tailor's daughter to the captain and the captain to the tailor. He is a matchmaker. 3:29:13 to 3:32:10. A deal is done, a wedding party takes place, and the story ends, curtailed by censorship.
Oh, clearly.
A lot happens. So much happens.
Obviously, clearly, I, got all of that in the read.
There's no shame. There's no shame with not getting any of it. It's one of those things that's, it's the context. It's like I was saying earlier, some of our readers are reading scholarly texts that give context about what's happening. They're listening to other recordings. There's the Skeleton Key book, which unlocks a lot of this sort of stuff. So I think having that summary before we'd read it, we might have been like, oh, remember whenever he says sagged, that means this and this, and we'll change our voices and things like that. That's fine and good, but that's not what this podcast is. We're not really trying to perform the definitive version of this script. We wanted to hear the words. And I feel as though sometimes if we were to say the words with the context, like in mind, it would change it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm which obviously is total cop-out, and it's just me excusing the fact that we haven't done any preparation to make this work, but I have no problem with that. I'm really...
Yeah, I think that's one of the ways you can do it. Obviously, I think in that sense, it's like attaching a pre-meaning to that.
Yeah.
And then, you go, you make a choice, you make a see how it sounds, and then you have a choice to change it. But just doing it out loud, just freestyling it, I guess you will have a different meaning than the pre-meaning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think, people have asked me, if how much preparation we're doing. They say, well, surely you read ahead. You've seen what's coming. And honestly, I have no idea. Aside from dividing up the chapters and sort of saying, okay, I'm putting a line through here. This is where we're going to end. And so I've seen it peripherally, but I've certainly never studied it.
Well, you're great, because I was absolutely just, I'm sorry, Mr. Joyce. I've butchered a lot of those words.
No, you did great. You really showed your training as an actor, because you really flew by it. And I honestly feel if you can cold read Joyce, you can cold read anything. Maybe not, Chaucer or something in another language, but this being able to get some meaning out of it and be able to make it sort of sing and get the personality coming out of it, even if it's not the meaning, because the meaning will come from the listener. The listener will hear the meaning. And no one ever got Finnegans Wake on the first read. No one. It's just not how it's supposed to work. Joyce would be horrified if someone claimed to know what was going on in Finnegans Wake in one reading, and that's not the point. So you didn't butcher anything. Yeah, I thought you did very, very well. And I texted TJ when you were halfway through, and I said, K'hari's coming for your job.
That's why you should have been here.
He was very apologetic. He wanted to come, and I suggested he drop in, but his head says his head feels like concrete, so he just can't think right now. And so us getting in here and throwing him lobs of Joyce probably wouldn't have worked. So unfortunately, no TJ this week. But we'll have to bring you back on a day when TJ is here, so that we'll put you both in the same room, because this synergy is palpable.
I'd love that. I'd certainly love that. It definitely feels like I've made like 50 new neural connections. While reading. Yeah,
I think the next thing will be I'm going to write an article about how this is going to spark brain function in elderly people. So taking it to old people's homes and getting them to read Finnegans Wake at me. Yeah,
absolutely.
Honestly, it really does make you think in a different way, whether or not it's something that you can use. TJ calls it his weekly humbling, but I feel as though it's mental gymnastics and really giving you a chance to think and the privilege. It's like whenever I teach Shakespeare, I always say you don't have to read Shakespeare. You get to read Shakespeare. Like it's a privilege. It's a absolute privilege to get to say these 400-year-old words. It's the same with this. We got nearly 100-year-old book, and these words have baffled people for a century and will continue to baffle. And to be baffled by them means you join a proud tradition of people baffled by this amazing man.
A big old group. Yeah. I think the theme of also just finding meaning has really hit a different page for me today, because it feels more so like spiritual exercise to find meaning.
Right.
So, yeah, trying to make sense of the world around you or right here in front of you, it takes a lot of work.
Oh, yeah. You go to the park and you say, I'm going to find meaning in a leaf. Well, how are you going to do that? And so you sit down and you examine it, but you smell it and you taste it, but is it as simple as that? Is it as simple as consuming it like you would some kind of food stuff? Or is it more about considering its role in the world and what it's doing with everything else that's around it? And feel as though what's happening with Joyce is he's asking us the same thing, saying this language, the stuff that you say all the time without even thinking about it, the stuff that just rolls out of your face, is you're building on this ancient tradition that our language is so young. The English language is only a few hundred years old, but it's all built on a tradition, on this oral tradition, building into the written word. And people 200 years ago could barely understand what we're saying now, but we don't have to think about what we're saying because what we say just comes out. But Joyce is saying, stop and think about what this language, the complexity of this language. Yeah. And that's a gift.
Absolutely. I think if while reading this, that was a part of the thing that helped me if I was to understand anything, is that when I was going too fast, and I realized that I wasn't even taking time to actually read the word, and I took a moment to do that, things became a little bit clearer to actually, even if it wasn't like it's a broken word that I was unfamiliar with, taking the time to give it the energy, the breath it needed was more helpful to understanding what was being said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, speaking of gifts, today was a gift. Connecting with my former students makes me so happy for the career that I dabbled in briefly of education, and just watching you grow into a man, a father, a productive member of society. You know, just from that young man who I met all those years ago, it's such a joy. And so to have you on here was a real treat for me.
I appreciate it. Thank you for calling on me and giving me this opportunity, and hopefully next time I'll have like a Batman play for you to read.
Oh yeah, that Batman play you promised me.
I gotta be Batman.
You gotta write that play.
Yeah, maybe that'll be the next podcast.
That's the next podcast. Yeah. All right. Okay, you're on. Well, that's perfect. So is there anywhere we can find you online, or are you hoping people don't find you online?
Yeah, I'm going to say a little bit. Find me on LinkedIn. Or voices.com, Constantine.
Okay.
Yeah, that should.
And I will link to those things in the show notes. And also, if you follow us on Instagram, then you can probably find K'hari tagged in this episode on our Instagram. So give K'hari a follow.
Thank you, you, Toby, and thank you, TJ.
Yes, we wish he was here. Yes, that is all the time we have this week for Wake. We return next week to take in even more fun tales at the inn. I've been Toby Malone, joined in spirit by TJ Young, with a huge thanks to K'hari Constantine for joining us this week. We will see you next week, storytellers and difference makers. This has been Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, just to hear it out loud. If you've made it this far, thank you for your dedication. Join us next week for another segment of Finnegans Wake and a chat about what we've found. Wake is a Moon Street Media podcast, engineered by TJ Young and Toby Malone. Our theme song is The Ballad of Perce O'Reilly, arranged and performed by Meg Logue after James Joyce. Wake is recorded in Canada, where Finnegans Wake is in the public domain. For community and bonus content, join us at our free Patreon at patreon.com/wakepod. If you have questions about Finnegans Wake, don't ask us. We're just as confused as you are. See you next week.